So what is the, let's say, Palestinian understanding of the issue of the boundary? To start with, we need to visit fundamental assumptions that Palestinians have when it comes to the issue of boundaries, how the Palestinians engage and think of the boundary issue. From a Palestinian perspective, the conflict is not over the West Bank and Gaza Strip. The conflict is over the entirety of the territory that used to be man-made Palestine. The issue is between two peoples having or claiming rights to self-determination on the same piece of land. In that respect, the Palestinians, which is the second fundamental assumption, the Palestinians believe or feel that Resolution 242 and the fact that Palestinians have accepted the two-state solution and the land for peace formula, it was a fundamental compromise, a political compromise. So it was a choice that the Palestinians accepted that to exercise their right to self-determination on a fifth of what they thought or think of as their historical homeland. And they did that for the sake of peace. So it was a political compromise. It's not particularly fair, but they accept it. And that is, I would say, a governing issue in how they think about the boundaries and compromise on boundaries. It's not enough that the state be economically and geographically viable. It actually needs to be politically viable. Because ultimately, it needs to be a state that the Palestinians are happy with, are satisfied with. So it needs to address subjective, not objective, Palestinian concerns. The same way that Palestinians can argue forever that Israeli perceptions of security are exaggerated and are inexplicable, given that it's the sixth strongest army, it's got a nuclear weapon. The Palestinian opinion in this issue does not really matter, because ultimately they need to make an agreement that the Israeli negotiator is satisfied with. And hence the subjective opinion of the Israeli weighs greater on this issue because it's an issue that matters to the Israeli. Conversely, what Palestinians perceive as a completely and absolutely independent state is what matters, is that perception. And that's why the issue of perception is very important, is that we need to address that, because ultimately you need both sides to be happy with the result. We cannot keep arguing on, or insisting too much, I would argue, on objective considerations of what is secure and objective consideration of what is a viable state.
The negotiations over borders, like everything else, they have to be bilateral. Yes, there is a border out there today. It's a separation, fence, barrier, wall, whatever we want to call it. But it's been unilaterally imposed upon the landscape. It's very possible that even if the separation, fence, barrier, wall was the green line, or much closer to the green line, it's very possible that even in that situation, if it had been unilaterally imposed, without the involvement of the other side wouldn't necessarily agree to it, even though that's very close, or may even be the actual line that they would agree to under bilateral situation. So obviously the how of the negotiation, not just getting back to negotiations of track one, it's also what are the power relations within that negotiation, and it has to be a bilateral agreement from that side. The big difference here, of course, between the Israeli and the Palestinian position is that Palestinian state, the green line is bound to have a very clear geographical vision of where that border will be. Israel has never had that vision. Israel has never been prepared to put its cards on the table and say, even if it doesn't want the green line, let's say even if it wants to take 25% of the West Bank and not give anything in return, even if that was its position, but it's never actually stated because Israel doesn't really know. Even for those people who are prepared to live with two states on the border, Israel doesn't really know where its final line and where its boundary is. They've never sort of had an end game. Some would say that is the way you do diplomacy. Some would say that that has always been the weak point of Israeli diplomacy, that Israel has never really gone to any negotiation table and said, this is exactly where we want to be at the end of the negotiation. Now let's sort of barter and trade with the other side.